Hello and welcome to Swipe. Coming up, ever thought about renting out your dog? We take a look at the web's sharing economy. Social media and Sochi, how activists are heading online to send a message to Russia during the Winter Olympics. Storytelling sensations, the e-book technology promising to help readers really feel the words. And we've side-scrolling skateboarders and suburban sea life, all in this week's Games Review. From renting out spare rooms to borrowing bikes, an online economic revolution is now underway. An increasing number of startups are coming onto the market based around the web's sharing economy. It's a concept that's challenging the old notions of what we really need to own and how much we consume. Sky's Katie Spencer has been finding out more.
Borrowing a stranger's dog might not immediately seem like the answer to the excesses of consumer capitalism. But this is part of a growing online movement, a shift towards collaborative consumption. The sharing economy stems from matching what someone has with what someone needs. And in the case of borrowmydoggy.com, that means man's best friend.
I heard about the website through some friends. You get the best of both worlds. I get a part-time dog, the owners get a break, and the dog gets lots of love and attention.
They get out for probably longer than if we were just paying for a dog walker. And yeah, they seem extremely happy.
Of course, peer-to-peer lending like this requires an element of trust. But with like-minded people seeking out the service, it's a concept that appears to be working.
We have thousands of members signing up every single week. Not only do the borrower get to spend some happy dog time and the owner gets some time off knowing their dog is well taken care of, but at the same time people also get to know each other really well locally, so people are actually making friends.
In recent years, hundreds of sharing startups have come onto the market. Websites that let you rent or lend just about anything, from the empty parking space outside of your house to last night's leftovers.
This place isn't mine, but I'm staying here for the weekend.
Airbnb, which lets people rent out their rooms to cash-strapped travellers, has taken the concept to another level. Last year, it says it generated £502 million in economic activity in the UK, but it's faced some problems with old regulations.
We have pretty clear laws today for private people and also for businesses, but not for, private people running a business out of their home. So we are working very proactively with regulators all over the world in clarifying these laws and figuring out how we can work together.
Sharing isn't always easy. The company has been in the firing line in New York and San Francisco, accused of flouting state regulations over short-term lets.
Larger hotels, and even medium-sized hotels, are saying it's an unfair playing field. We're having to pay these taxes and regulations and they're not.
Peer-to-peer businesses are a powerful force in the market, providing millions of people with an extra source of income. But it's not all about making money. Sites offering people the chance to give away their goods have also taken off. Frustrated with kiddie consumerism, blogger Hattie Garlic built a massive following, writing about her experiences of trying to raise her son for a whole year without spending a penny.
The project sounds like it harks back to some kind of nostalgic era of childhood, but in fact it was all about the internet. It wouldn't have been possible at all without the web.
Good dog. Collaborative consumption is proving a force to be reckoned with, challenging traditional ideas of what we really need to own and raising questions about whether we've more to gain through sharing. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, the e-books that let you feel what you read. But first, after 4 years of waiting, the Winter Olympics is back. But not for the first time. The sport's in danger of being overshadowed by politics. Last year, Russia passed a law restricting the freedoms of gay people. There have also been some disturbing cases of homophobic attacks. Now campaigners are using social media to put pressure on Russia to do something about it. Sky's Tom Platt reports.
Dear LGBT brothers and sisters in Russia.
Dear brothers and sisters in Russia.
To Russia with love, messages from around the world telling LGBT Russians that it gets better.
Love and strength for you all from the It Gets Better project in Switzerland.
According to recent research, almost 3/4 of Russians don't think homosexuality should be accepted by society. In the face of this increasing intolerance, human rights groups are using social media to show gay Russians they're not alone.
If you knew me, would you save that seat for me?
Organisations like All Out and the Human Rights Campaign are using hashtags Love Always Wins and Love Conquers Hate to spread their messages. Seizing the spotlight of the Sochi Games, their campaigns capitalise on share-worthy content.
All Out has 1.9 million members and growing all the time, and that's really how we see the way we're going to change the world. We're going to mobilise millions of people and their social networks to build the world where everyone can love freely and live how they choose. Hashtag Love Always Wins, that encouraged people to share that video around, and the more people see that video, hear that these laws are happening, the more people are going to join our movement and help make change happen.
And the power of social media can be great. 150 million tweets were sent during the London Olympics. But even if a gay rights organisation can harness that power, will it make a difference?
Even if we don't see Putin move on this, even if we don't see the major corporations that are endorsing the Olympics change their stance, I think this will communicate to the people in Russia who are in the LGBT community that they really matter.
But as international organisations gain momentum, domestic campaigns are faltering. The founder of Children 404, an LGBT online community in Russia, faces charges of sharing homosexual propaganda. She could face a fine of around £2,000. There's a feeling in the country that social media campaigning also needs to succeed at home.
Other campaigns from other countries put an attention to the situation in Russia. It's great, but it's better when they can make campaigns inside of Russia.
The Olympic Games puts the international focus and international campaigning on Russia. Whether this activism comes from inside the country or not, LGBT Russians just hope it will be a victory for gay rights. Tom Platt, Sky News.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, changing your look in an instant. More on Intel's magic mirror. But first, we've all read a book where we really feel connected to the characters. And just in time for National Storytelling Week, scientists at MIT have developed a way to actually plug you into the pages. Nick Stilianou has been finding out whether we'll be strapping ourselves in rather than curling up with the latest bestseller.
It looks like something from a science fiction novel, not the new way to read one. But this is a prototype of Sensory Fiction, a wearable book project from the Massachusetts Institute of Technology. The oversized pages have 150 programmable LEDs that can change colour to match the mood of your chapter. But it's this vest that makes sure the story sets your heart racing, quite literally. It's not just your imagination that will take cues from the words on the page. Sensors, airbags and vibration motors will tighten, loosen and even heat you up if the action's getting steamy. But before you start looking for a wearable version of 50 Shades, that's not quite what the creators had in mind.
Fantastic stories would be great for that, but also maybe like kids' books might be really interesting. They're really well, not really simple stories, but they're a bit more simple.
So instead of scouring the shelves, we could just be suiting ourselves up to the spines. But not everyone's convinced that bookshops need to start investing in clothes hangers.
There are an awful lot of books that have moved me, some of them to tears, and I think that a book isn't doing its job if it requires the supplement of technology to squeeze you or make you feel pain.
It might end up being more important than ever what type of novel you've picked up.
A caricature of a woman, burning, melting, obsessed with true love.
Before long, you could be popping into places like this to really make sure the book you're reading does have a happy ending. Nick Stilianou, Sky News.
You're watching Swipe. Coming up, we'll be putting our skating skills to the test in this week's Games Review. But first, here's a roundup of anything you might have missed over the last few days. Facebook turned 10 this week, and to mark the occasion, every user was treated to their own personalised video. Set to slightly dodgy music, we were given the chance to reflect back on some of the more questionable posts we've put up over the years. Mark Zuckerberg said he hoped the next 10 will be even better, but with some researchers claiming young people are moving on to cooler news sites nowadays, should Facebook be worried?
Facebook right now is facing a huge amount of competition and a real challenge to stay relevant with certain demographics for certain purposes. So for example, kids are gravitating to things like Tumblr and Instagram and Snapchat and Whisper.
Sony is getting rid of its troubled PC business. The Japanese electronics company revealed it expects to make a full-year loss of around £665 million. Battered by stiff competition from Samsung and Apple, Sony has acknowledged it won't be able to stop losing money in its Vaio PC or Bravia TV operations, despite repeated promises to do so. One of the biggest names in tech has a new boss. Microsoft has announced Satya Nadella as chief executive to replace Steve Ballmer. He's a Microsoft veteran of 22 years and is currently in charge of the cloud computing side of the business. And finally, good news for anyone who's ever been dragged to the shops and had to sit outside the changing rooms waiting for their other half. Of course, mine would never do such a thing. Trying on clothes could be set to get a whole lot easier. Intel's been showing off its digital memory mirror. The idea is to allow shoppers to virtually try on multiple outfits, as well as recording those you have tried on so you can compare your looks. So, is it a glimpse of the future or just a gimmick?
If someone is constantly trying on an item but never actually purchases that item, afterwards the retailer will be able to send you offers and say, are you sure you don't want to buy this? Would you take it if it was 10% off or different deals? And actually start to have a conversation with the consumer that they wouldn't be having before unless a transaction was made.
Dads with tentacles, side-scrolling skateboarders and a little bit of Lara Croft. It's fair to say we've got a mixed bag in this week's Games Review. Keza McDonald's been taking us through her pick of the best.
If you remember the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater games from the 90s and early 2000s, then Ollie Ollie will tick a nostalgic box for you. It's a 2D game where you're on a skateboard. It starts off being really hard, but once you get the hang of it, once you get your fingers around the controls, it's really, really fun. It's all about sketching together endless combos, sort of grinding and tricks in the air, and it's all about giving your thumbs a workout as well. It's really fun. It's a high-score game, so it's very addictive as well. It's the best skateboarding game that's been around in a very, very long time. Octodad is a game where you have to make sure that nobody realises you're an octopus, which may be the best premise for a game I've ever heard of. Essentially, you have all of your 8 wibbly limbs tucked into a suit, and you have to try and take care of your wife and family without being able to do really basic tasks like pouring coffee or mowing the lawn without sending everything flinging everywhere. The fun from Octodad comes from the control system. It's really hard to control your tentacles at once, but instead of being frustrating, it's just really, really funny. You only have to look at Octodad for about 30 seconds to realise how fun it's going to be to play. So Octodad is being pursued by a crazy sushi chef who is determined to make his true nature apparent to the world. So half the game is about performing basic tasks with your family and, you know, trying to pretend not to be an octopus, and the other half of the game is trying to escape your crazy sushi chef who wants to turn you into sushi. Tomb Raider first came out last year around this time. This time it's out again, but it's on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One.
Is anyone listening? Please respond.
It does look an awful lot better. On PlayStation 4 it runs at 60 frames per second, which it doesn't on Xbox One. If you've already played Tomb Raider on PS3 or Xbox 360, then you might not want to spend the money to play it again, but if you haven't played it, this is definitely the edition to go for. It's a great game. It's a really fantastic rebirth for Lara Croft. I like it just as much this year as I did last year. Broken Age is a beautiful adventure game that harks back to the old days of point and click. And the great thing about it is that it's not actually too difficult to play. So no matter who you are or what you like, you can play Broken Age. It's a beautiful, whimsical, surreal tale. You play half of it as a young man and half of it as a young woman, and at the end their tales are kind of interwoven. It's the most beautifully strange game I've played this year so far. It's got an art style that's kind of papercrafty, kind of watercolory, very beautiful to look at. It's got very strange puzzles that are, you know, tricky enough to work out without being so tricky that they make you annoyed. It's just a really, really great 4 hours. It's like a beautiful storybook that you might read.
Well, that's your lot for this week. Remember, you can catch up with the breaking tech stories all week on Sky News for iPad, our smartphone apps, and skynews.com. We'll see you next time.